If you're into messy exes, awkward breakfasts, and kisses that turn into full on battles, you're gonna love this series. So don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you won't miss the next chapter of this wild BL ride. You buried that morning in the car the only way he knew how, by throwing himself headfirst back into the idol world. Stage lights replaced street lights, crowds replaced silence, and the applause drowned out the sound of his own thoughts. He said yes to everything: photo shoots, commercials, variety shows, late night talk programs, radio guestings, back to back recording sessions. Every time his manager suggested a break, you waved it off with that dazzling April Fool's smile. Another endorsement? Sure, back to back interviews. Line them up. Overnight rehearsal before tomorrow's fan meet. He didn't even blink. Within a month, his calendar was packed so tight it barely left room for sleep. His team praised his dedication, fans cheered his endless energy. But behind the cameras, he was running himself ragged. It had been exactly 1 month since he'd last seen Doumeki. No calls, no texts, no nothing. Yu told himself that was fine. He was too busy anyway. Too busy to think about that breakfast table, that calm, infuriating face, that kiss he couldn't shake no matter how many stages he stood on. The world saw April Fools, flawless, unstoppable, shining brighter than ever. But in the quiet corners of dressing rooms, he caught glimpses of you in the mirror. Tired eyes, thinner cheeks, a smile stretched too thin. And every night when the applause faded, the silence hit him harder than ever. The makeup artist dabbed at his face, layering concealer under his eyes. Hold still, you! You're twitching. Sorry, you mumbled, forcing a smile into the mirror. The reflection smiled back, perfect on the surface, but even with makeup, the dark circles showed through. His manager, Mina, stood in the doorway, arms crossed and brow furrowed. She'd been with him since before his debut, sharp-eyed, quick-tongued, and one of the few people who dared call him out. You've dropped weight again, she said flatly. You waved it off. Lighting trick. Lighting trick, my ass. You're running on 3 hours of sleep and caffeine. If you keep this pace, you're going to collapse on stage. You laughed. That practiced, easy laugh he gave interviewers. If I collapse, the fans will love it. April Fools gives his all until the very end. Can't buy publicity like that. Mina didn't laugh. Her gaze softened, just enough to show worry. It's been a month, you. You've been working like the devil's chasing you. What are you trying to outrun? The smile on his lips faltered, just for a second. Nothing, he said quickly, standing, grabbing his jacket. Just busy. That's all. But Mina's eyes narrowed, reading him too well. This isn't about work, is it? He froze in the doorway, his back to her. His fingers clenched the fabric of his jacket until the seams dug into his skin. She sighed. Whoever he is, he's not worth running yourself into the ground. You swallowed hard, throat tight. He wanted to snap back, deny it, laugh it off like always. Instead, he forced a grin over his shoulder. Relax, Mina. I'm fine. April Fools doesn't break that easily. And just like that, he walked out, smile shining brighter than the studio lights, leaving the truth buried in the space between his ribs. The fan meet was chaos in the best and worst ways. Hundreds of voices called his name, banners waved, and the heat of the venue pressed down like a weight. You smiled, signed albums, posed for selfies, April Fools in flawless form. But his head throbbed, his body ached, and every cheer blurred into static. The pen slipped once in his hand. His vision swam, the edges of the room tilting. He forced a laugh. Sorry, everyone, just give me a second, okay? Security ushered him backstage, and Yu sank into a chair, tugging at his collar. He pressed his hands to his temples, trying to blink the world back into focus. Idiot, came a voice, low and unmistakably familiar. Yu's head snapped up. Doumeki stood there, holding out a bottle of water, calm, nonchalant, like he hadn't just walked through Yu's carefully built defenses. The single word, idiot, burned more than the heat or the exhaustion. Don't call me that, Yu snapped automatically, taking the water anyway. How the hell did you even get in here? Security doesn't just let random professors stroll backstage. Your manager let me through, Doumeki said evenly, hands slipping into his pockets. Yu blinked. Mina? His chest tightened. Only a handful of people even knew they'd been married, and Mina was one of them. He wanted to believe it meant something. So what? Yu muttered, trying to sound casual even as his heart picked up speed. You came here to see me? After a month? For half a second, silence stretched between them, fragile and dangerous. Then Doumeki said, in that maddeningly flat tone, There's a linguistics convention. Same building. The words hit harder than they should have. Yu laughed sharply, tossing the cap back onto the bottle. Of course. Right. Just my luck. He told himself not to care, not to hope, but deep down, the fragile part of him had wanted Doumeki to say something else. I missed you. I wanted to see you. I still. Instead, he swallowed the lump in his throat, flashing a brittle smile. Well, enjoy your convention. But before he could take another breath, Doumeki's hand clamped around his wrist. In the next second, Yu was pushed back down onto the couch, Doumeki towering over him, his shadow swallowing the room. What? Yu's protest was cut off as Doumeki's mouth crashed against his. The kiss was rough, merciless, stealing the air from his lungs. The couch was cool under his back, the world hazy around the edges. Well, wait, Yu managed, but the words dissolved as he was bent forward against the dressing mirror. His reflection stared back, flushed cheeks, trembling lips, eyes half-lidded, with something dangerously close to want. Heat coiled low in his stomach, overwhelming, unstoppable. He gasped, arching into it, and snapped awake. The dressing room was quiet, the only sound the faint buzz of the overhead lights. Yu sat bolt upright on the couch, heart pounding, skin damp with sweat. Oh, He buried his face in his hands. You've got to be kidding me. Of all the things to dream about, of all the people, his ex-husband, again. Yu groaned, throwing his head back against the cushion. Haunting me in real life wasn't enough. Now you've invaded my dreams too? Damn you, Doumeki. On the table sat a half-empty water bottle. He stared at it, dread coiling in his gut, until he remembered Mina, his manager, had left one earlier before rushing out to handle the fans outside. Doumeki hadn't been here. Doumeki hadn't kissed him senseless. Doumeki hadn't... Yu cursed under his breath, slumping back into the couch. Damn it, not even safe in my own head. He thought about dating again, about maybe letting someone else in, but the idea felt hollow, unfair. Whoever it was, they'd be standing in the shadow of someone else, someone he couldn't let go of, even in his dreams. With a bitter laugh, Yu closed his eyes. You're still haunting me, bastard. Even when you're not here. The knock on the door jolted him. Yu sat up straighter, scrubbing a hand across his face as though he could erase the dream that still clung to him. The door cracked open and Mina stepped inside, tablet in one hand, headset crooked around her neck. Break's over, superstar. Fans are waiting. Can you stand? Her tone was teasing, but her eyes lingered on him just a moment too long, sharp enough to notice the way his shoulders sagged. I'm fine, Yu said quickly, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Mina tilted her head, unconvinced. You're pale. Dizzy spell? He waved it off with a laugh. It's just the heat. And maybe I didn't hydrate enough. Don't worry, I'll make up for it. But guilt prickled in his chest. Fans had lined up, waited hours, some traveling miles just to see him, and he had nearly passed out in front of them. The thought alone made his gut twist. All right, he said, standing and rolling his shoulders back, slipping the mask on as easily as pulling on a jacket. His voice was brighter now, the one everyone knew. Let's not keep them waiting. April Fool's is back. Mina gave him one last searching look before nodding. That's more like it. As he followed her out, Yu's steps grew steadier. The dream still haunted him, the phantom heat of Doumeki's grip, the rough kiss against the mirror, but in some twisted way it had helped. The dizziness was gone, the fog in his head cleared. All that was left was him, smiling, flawless, untouchable, back to being April Fools. At the university, Professor Doumeki walked across the quad with his usual purposeful stride, papers tucked under one arm. He passed by a group of students huddled over a phone, their laughter spilling into the air. April Fools dropped a new MV yesterday, one of them squealed. Look at his eyes. God, he's unreal. Doumeki didn't stop walking, but his fingers tightened ever so slightly on the stack of papers. On the train home, the hum of the carriage was filled with chatter and the faint bleat of music from someone's earbuds. The unmistakable chorus of Yu's latest single filtered through, tinny but clear. Domeki closed his eyes, head tipping back against the seat. The song had always been bright, addictive, but now it felt like a knife twisted in silence. At the grocery store, Doumeki reached for his usual brand of green tea and froze. There, plastered across the skincare aisle, was Yu's face, smiling, flawless, eyes gleaming mismatched amber and gray. His hand held up a bottle of toner with that same magnetic energy that once belonged only to Domeki in their kitchen, their mornings, their bed. Domeki exhaled slowly, setting the tea in his cart. He walked on without looking back, but the image followed him anyway. That night, Domeki pushed open the window of his modest apartment. The evening air was cool, quiet, a relief after the endless noise of the city. But when he looked across the street, there it was, a massive billboard illuminated against the night sky. Yu's face loomed over the city, smiling, radiant, untouchable. The caption read, "April Fools, the voice of a generation." Doumeki's breath caught. He stared, hands gripping the window frame. Yu had made it, more than made it. He had become a star, a phenomenon. Without Doumeki, no, because of Doumeki. Because Doumeki had let him go, and now Yu belonged to the world. The billboard glowed through the window, painting Doumeki's room in the light of Yu's flawless smile. He stood in silence, staring, the memories coming whether he wanted them or not. They had been high school best friends, at first just good friends, classmates who slowly gravitated towards each other until their worlds felt permanently linked. The first time Doumeki ever noticed Yu was in the school's music room. Yu had been singing alone, no accompaniment, no audience, just his voice filling the space like it belonged to him. Even then, Doumeki had known he was one in a million. That voice was going to carry him far. The next year, fate had placed them side by side as seatmates. Getting close was effortless after that. Doumeki made it his mission to tease him every chance he got, tapping his pen against Yu's desk, leaning too close to his notes, whispering things under his breath during lessons. Yu always snapped back, loud and dramatic, his wit sharp enough to draw laughter even from Doumeki. It only encouraged him to do it more. Sometimes, after school, Yu would perform on the streets with nothing but an old guitar. His voice carried above the noise of traffic, pulling strangers into stillness. Doumeki would always be there, watching from the crowd. More than once he slipped in a week's worth of allowance into the guitar case, pretending it was nothing. Yu had caught him once, scowling in embarrassment. "Don't do that. I don't need your pity," Doumeki had only smirked, tossing back a reply designed to annoy him further. Teasing was their language, their tether. Looking back now, it seemed inevitable that those simple moments of banter and quiet loyalty would turn into something more. But inevitability didn't mean permanence. The billboard across the street loomed large and bright, reminding Doumeki of a truth that twisted in his chest. Yu had made it big, bigger than either of them could have dreamed, and he'd done it without Doumeki by his side, because Doumeki had let him go. His chest felt hollow as he stared at the billboard. Yu looked years younger there, as if time had never touched him, as if it had stopped just for him. If only it could have stopped for them both. Doumeki's mind drifted back, unbidden, to the first time he kissed Yu. The moment their easy friendship tipped into something more. The rooftop of the Doumeki estate stretched wide and open, the city glittering below the hill like a scattered sea of stars. The two of them sat on the low wall, legs dangling, a bag of snacks between them, just two friends killing time. Yu leaned back on his hands, eyes fixed on the view. "You'll be in college in a year." Big, smart professor in training. His laugh was light but tinged with resignation. "Me? I probably won't go. Grades aren't great, and I'm not about to drown myself in debt. Better to get some temporary job, or maybe just sing on the streets until something sticks." Doumeki turned his head, studying him. Yu's mismatched eyes shone faintly under the city lights, more alive when he talked about music than when he spoke of anything else. Then do that. Doumeki said simply. Yu blinked. Huh? Do what you want, Doumeki replied, not what people tell you you're supposed to do. There was a pause, comfortable, the night air cool around them. Then, before he could stop himself, Doumeki leaned over and kissed him. It wasn't planned, it wasn't careful, just a brief press of lips, sharp and sudden. Yu jerked back, eyes wide. What the hell, man? Doumeki shrugged, forcing his voice flat even as his pulse hammered in his throat. What does it look like? Yu stared at him, flabbergasted, his hands flailing a little for emphasis. Wait. Are you saying you like me? You, of all people, you like me? His voice pitched higher with every word, dramatizing the surprise until it was almost comical. Doumeki's jaw tightened, but he didn't look away. Hey, no judgment, Yu added quickly, waving his hands. I just never thought you'd, like me like that. He scratched at his cheek, eyes darting away. I mean, I guess I'm curious too. The word landed heavy between them. Curious. Doumeki felt something bitter twist in his chest. Curious. As if this was just an experiment. As if you could pick it up and drop it without consequence. Silence fell over the rooftop, thick and awkward. The city lights below twinkled on, uncaring. Yu shifted uncomfortably, biting his lip. So, now what? Doumeki didn't answer right away, his gaze fixed on the boy beside him, the weight of the word curious echoing louder than anything else. The silence stretched too long until Doumeki finally spoke. There was an edge to his voice that surprised even him. So, what do you want then? Yu fiddled with the snack wrapper in his hands, avoiding his eyes. I mean, I've always been kind of bi-curious, I guess. He said it with a nervous laugh, as if trying to lighten the weight of the words. So, maybe you and I could give it a try? The words landed like a knife in Domeki's chest. Be curious, as if it were nothing serious, as if he were just a convenient stand-in, a practice dummy. It stung. But the thought of turning him down, of letting this moment slip away, hurt more. Doumeki forced his lips into something that resembled a smirk. Really? You want to try it? In my room? Yu's head snapped toward him, eyes wide, face flaming red. What? Right now? You don't just say that, you absolute. He shoved at Doumeki's shoulder with both hands, sputtering nonsense words until they turned into laughter. Doumeki didn't laugh, he just watched him, the heat in his chest a mix of hope, fear, and something that felt dangerously like desperation. Even if he only sees me as an experiment, I'll take it, if it means staying close. The night air carried their laughter, awkward and uneven, over the city lights. But behind Doumeki's calm facade, something heavier settled, a truth he'd never say aloud. This wasn't curiosity for him, it was everything. Doumeki's room was neat, almost too neat, the kind of order that came from a strict household. Yu stood awkwardly near the desk, arms flailing as if warding off invisible danger. So, what exactly are we doing here? Yu demanded, his voice pitching high. He gesticulated wildly, pointing from the bed to the door, then back to Doumeki. Like, are we supposed to? Or maybe you thought we'd... Because let me tell you, I am not ready for anything above, like, rated PG. His arm swung so dramatically he nearly knocked over a lamp. Doumeki, leaning against the dresser, watched him with that maddeningly calm expression. Then the corner of his mouth twitched. Should I call my parents in to provide guidance? Yu froze, eyes going wide. Then his face twisted into outrage. You're sick in the head. Who even jokes about that? He turned on his heel, ready to storm out in a flurry of limbs and indignation. But before he could reach the door, Doumeki caught his arm. The pole spun Yu back around, right into him. And then, without warning, Doumeki leaned down and kissed him. It was soft, Not teasing, not mocking, just a gentle press of the lips, enough to make Yu's breath hitch. When Doumeki pulled back, his voice was low, steady. My parents aren't home. His gaze held Yu's, sharp but not unkind. We've got time. No rush. Just us. Yu stared up at him, stunned into silence. His arms, usually flailing, now hung frozen at his sides. For once, words failed him. The air between them felt different now, quieter, heavier, as if the whole world had paused to wait. Doumeki didn't let go of Ayu's wrist. Instead, he tugged him gently toward the bed. Relax, he said, his voice steady, calm in the way that always infuriated Yu, but also grounded him. Yu let himself be pulled, awkward steps carrying him forward until he bumped into the edge of the mattress. Before he could protest, Doumeki pushed lightly at his shoulder, guiding him down. Yu toppled onto the bed with a startled yelp, lying flat against the crisp sheets. Then Doumeki leaned over him, slow and deliberate, bracing himself on his arms as he crawled onto the mattress. His shadow fell across Yu, and suddenly the room felt too small, too warm. Yu's mismatched eyes went wide. His breath hitched as he whispered, almost desperately, "Rated PG." For a heartbeat, Doumeki just looked at him, unreadable. Then his mouth curved into the faintest smile, and he dipped down to press a kiss to Yu's forehead. "Is this PG enough for you?" he murmured. Yu shuddered, his fingers curling into the sheets. His lips parted, but no words came out, only the shaky sound of his breathing filling the space between them. It was clumsy, it was awkward, but it was theirs. Doumeki moved with deliberate care, like handling a skittish rabbit that might bolt at the slightest sound. He didn't want to spook him, not yet, not ever. So he took his time, a nibble here, a kiss there, small, testing touches, waiting for Yu's reactions. He pressed a kiss to Yu's eyelids, first the left, then the right. He'd always thought those mismatched eyes were beautiful. He could have stared into them forever, memorizing the way they caught light, the way they softened when Yu laughed. Finally kissing them felt like a stolen gift. His lips trailed lower, brushing against the bridge of Yu's nose. Then he hovered just above Yu's mouth, close enough to feel the shallow rise and fall of his breath, close enough to hear the way it caught in his throat. But instead of claiming his lips, he shifted, angling down to the side of Yu's face. His teeth grazed the curve of Yu's ear, a soft bite, quick but playful. Yu jolted beneath him, half gasp, half whimper. Doumeki smirked faintly. He'd wanted to do this for years. He remembered every time Yu's ears turned scarlet when he was embarrassed, how easy it was to tease him, how much he'd longed to know what it would feel like to taste that heat for himself. So he did. His tongue slid across the earlobe, slow and careful. Yu shuddered, his hands twitching against the sheets. Doumeki's lips wandered lower, brushing along the sharp angle of Yu's jaw, down to the pale column of his neck. The skin there was soft, too inviting. He nibbled lightly, savoring the quiet gasp that escaped Yu's lips. But suddenly, Yu pushed at his chest, just enough to create space. Their eyes met, wide, startled, burning. "PG, PG," Yu blurted, almost chanting the words like a warding spell. For a long beat, Doumeki just stared at him. Then the corner of his mouth curved in quiet amusement. Even now, with his lips tingling from every kiss, Yu still clung to that ridiculous line. And Doumeki, patient, hungry, hopeless, could only smile and wait. "PG exclamation mark, PG exclamation mark," Yu chanted, shoving lightly at Doumeki's chest, his face red enough to set off a fire alarm. Doumeki tilted his head, studying him with quiet amusement. Then, with maddening calm, he asked, "And what exactly does PG mean, Yu?" Yu sputtered. "You know, like innocent, holding hands, hugs, maybe a kiss on the cheek at most." His arms flailed again, nearly hitting Doumeki in the jaw. Not whatever this is." Doumeki's lips curved into a faint smirk. "So, kissing your forehead was fine, but your ear wasn't?" Yu froze, eyes wide. His Uz's, traitorous and bright red, gave him away instantly. You, you're sick, he yelped, shoving harder, though he barely moved Doumeki an inch. Who goes straight for the ear? That's not PG at all. Doumeki leaned closer, lowering his voice until you could feel the vibration of it against his skin. Then, what rating would you give that? Yu's brain short-circuited. His mouth opened and closed, but no words came out, only an indignant squeak. Satisfied, Doumeki chuckled, the sound low and warm, and pulled back just enough to watch Yu squirm. Relax, I won't push you, but his eyes told a different story. Patient, hungry, and unyielding, as if he'd wait forever. But also as if he'd never stop testing where Yu's PG line really ended. Yu groaned, covering his face with both hands. F you. Doumeki's smirk deepened. That didn't sound very PG either.